Thank you for tuning in to LeadDeveloper.com, where we simplify complex property development feasibilities, investment analysis, and everything real estate. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our Google Sheets-based feasibility suite streamlines the toughest aspects of real estate. Lead Developer Feasibility Suite is trusted by thousands in over 17 countries. Our tools cover everything from quick assessments to detailed cash flow projections and more. Sign up today at LeadDeveloper.com for unlimited free access to our expanding library of real estate tools. No credit card needed. Plus, get full support through Edge with step-by-step guidance, exclusive courses, and resources designed for your success. Turn numbers into narratives that win over investors and lenders. Join Lead Developer now.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to switch gears a bit? Today we're diving into this article called Types of Property Developers.
Sounds a little dry, maybe.
I know, right? But stick with us because this is way more interesting than it sounds.
It really is. What's fascinating to me is that the world of property development, it's so much more diverse than people realize.
Yeah. We kind of have this image of, the slick developer in a fancy suit. But this article,
Right.
It's from a website. It's like a gold mine for aspiring developers. And it totally breaks down those stereotypes. Like it goes deep into the different types of people who make up this world.
Yeah.
And their motivations are surprisingly varied.
And those varying motivations are key. Because ultimately, that's what drives the choices that developers make, choices that shape the communities we live in.
Okay, so let's break this down. The article, it outlines 10 different types of developers.
Okay.
Some are pretty straightforward, like the folks who build their own homes, or the build-to-rent developers. But then you've got these other categories that are way more intriguing, like the extended family developer.
Now, that one sounds like a recipe for some serious drama.
Oh, yeah.
You've got multiple family members, maybe even generations, all involved in a project. Talk about high stakes.
I can just imagine the Thanksgiving dinners.
Right.
And then there's the $1,000 option fee developer. This one really blew my mind. They secure properties with these tiny, almost unbelievable fees.
Yeah, the strategy there often involves a deep understanding of kind of niche markets or properties with hidden potential.
So it's not just about luck or finding a steal.
Right.
It's about specialized knowledge and being able to spot opportunities that others miss.
Exactly. It's like they're the real estate equivalent of those bargain hunting treasure hunters.
Oh, that's a great analogy. And speaking of misjudging things, we can't forget about the knows-all developer.
On the nose.
Oh, yeah. This one is a classic cautionary tale. We've all met someone like this, right? They think they have all the answers.
Yeah.
They refuse to listen to advice and charge full steam ahead into disaster.
Yeah, and what's interesting there is that overconfidence can be especially dangerous in property development.
Right.
Because there are so many moving parts, unexpected challenges, and market fluctuations that can completely derail a project. A little humility and a willingness to learn from others can go a long way.
It sounds like success in property development is as much about personality and approach as it is about having technical skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the type of developer you are will often dictate your approach to things like market research.
Okay.
Take the build-to-rent developer, for example. They're not just throwing up any old apartment building and hoping for the best.
Right.
They're laser-focused on understanding the rental market, conducting thorough research to figure out what renters actually want.
So they're really tapping into what the article calls demand-led development. They're responding to a proven need in the market.
Yes.
Rather than just speculating about what might be popular.
Right. It's about understanding what drives demand in a specific location. Are you targeting young professionals who prioritize, trendy amenities and walkability, or are you catering to families who need more space and access to good schools? The answers to those questions will shape every decision.
Right.
From the type of property you build to the materials you use and the amenities you offer.
That makes total sense. So how does that contrast with supply-led development? What's the thinking there?
Supply-led development is more about trying to predict future demand.
Okay.
Or fill a perceived gap in the market, often with tight budgets and standardized designs. I think those large-scale housing developments that pop up in the outskirts of cities.
But as you said earlier, property development is all about understanding people.
Right.
And people are diverse. So just assuming that everyone wants the same cookie-cutter house might not be the best strategy. Exactly. And that's where understanding those different developer types comes in, because their motivations will often influence whether they lean towards a demand-led or supply-led approach. So what about the developers who are primarily focused on building to sell for profit?
Well, their primary goal is understandably maximizing their return on investment as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
This can sometimes lead them to prioritize short-term gains over long-term considerations.
Meaning they might be tempted to cut corners or choose cheaper materials to boost their profit margin,
Yeah,
even if it means sacrificing quality or longevity.
it's a temptation for sure.
Right.
But it's important to remember that there are plenty of developers who prioritize quality and sustainability, even if it means a slightly lower profit margin. They understand that building a reputation for excellence is ultimately good for business in the long run.
It's like that saying, buy cheap, buy twice. If you're constantly having to fix shoddy construction or deal with unhappy tenants, it's going to eat into your profits anyway.
Right. And then you have developers who build specifically to create investments for others to buy.
Okay.
Think of it like building a turnkey business. They might start a project, secure tenants, get everything running smoothly,
Okay.
and then sell it to a long-term investor who's looking for a steady stream of passive income.
That adds a whole other layer of complexity, doesn't it? Because they need to think about the needs of both the tenants who will be living there
Right.
and the investor who will eventually buy the property.
Absolutely. And that highlights another fascinating type of developer, public bodies that build to meet their own operational and social needs.
Okay.
They might be focused on providing affordable housing, revitalizing a struggling neighborhood, or creating community facilities.
So their motivations are more community-driven than purely profit-driven.
Often, yes.
But that doesn't mean they can ignore financial realities, right? They still need to manage budgets effectively and ensure that their developments are sustainable in the long run.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to consider the ethical implications here. Both private and public developers have a responsibility to the communities they operate in. But their approaches to balancing profit and social impact can differ significantly.
So it's not just about the buildings themselves. It's about the values and priorities of the developers who create them. That's a pretty powerful insight.
It is.
It makes you realize that property development is about so much more than just bricks and mortar. It's about understanding people, understanding markets, and making choices that have a lasting impact on our communities.
And that brings us to the next crucial aspect of property development, the essential skills that set successful developers apart.
Okay.
We've touched on a few already, but there's so much more to uncover.
Well, I'm ready to dive deeper into that. But first, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll explore the key skills and qualities that every aspiring property developer should know.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back and ready to tackle this whole skill set of a property developer. I'm picturing like a toolbox.
Okay.
But instead of hammers and wrenches, it's packed with negotiation tactics and market analysis reports.
That's a great way to visualize it. And just like a master craftsperson, a successful developer needs a diverse set of tools to get the job done.
So where do we even begin? What are some of the most crucial skills that aspiring developers should focus on?
Well, this article, it really emphasizes the importance of understanding people. Almost like having a sixth sense for what buyers or renters truly want in a property or a neighborhood. It goes way beyond just looking at demographics.
Right.
It's about anticipating desires and understanding the psychology behind those decisions.
So are we talking about developers becoming amateur psychologists?
Not quite, but they do need a knack for observation and a deep understanding of market trends. For instance, a developer who understands the growing desire for flexible living spaces might incorporate home offices or multifunctional rooms into their designs. Or they might anticipate the demand for sustainable features and incorporate energy-efficient appliances or solar panels.
So it's about being ahead of the curve.
Yes.
Spotting those emerging trends before they become mainstream. That probably involves a lot of research and analysis, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Developers need to be constantly reading industry publications, attending conferences, networking with other professionals to stay informed about the latest developments and shifts in consumer preferences. It's almost like being a trend forecaster.
Right.
constantly looking for clues about what's next.
I can see how that would be crucial for those $1,000 option fee developers we talked about earlier.
Yes.
They need to be able to spot those hidden gems, those properties that have the potential to become like hot commodities.
Exactly. They might see a rundown building in a neighborhood that's on the verge of gentrification, or a piece of land that's perfectly positioned for a new commercial development.
Okay.
That ability to see potential where others see only problems is a hallmark of a successful developer.
Okay, so we've got market understanding,
Yeah.
trend spotting. What other skills are essential in that developer's toolbox?
Resourcefulness is a big one. Developers often need to be incredibly scrappy, especially early in their careers. They might not have access to huge amounts of capital.
Right.
So they need to be creative about finding and acquiring suitable land or properties.
I imagine that involves a lot of networking and negotiation, right?
Yes.
Like being able to build relationships with landowners, brokers, investors, everyone involved in that property ecosystem.
Exactly. Developers are constantly negotiating deals, securing financing, navigating complex legal agreements. It requires strong communication skills, the ability to persuade and build consensus, and a knack for finding win-win solutions.
It sounds like they need to be master communicators, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just in negotiations, but also in terms of explaining their vision to architects,
Yes.
contractors, and even potential buyers or renters.
Communication is absolutely key at every stage of the process, whether it's pitching an idea to investors,
Right.
presenting plans to city officials, or resolving disputes with contractors. Developers need to be able to articulate their ideas clearly and effectively.
Yeah.
They need to be able to inspire confidence and trust in everyone they work with.
Okay, so we've got market knowledge, resourcefulness, communication skills. What about the financial side of things? Property development is a pretty capital-intensive business.
Without a doubt, financial savvy is non-negotiable. Developers need to be able to secure funding, manage budgets, and make sound financial decisions throughout the entire development lifecycle.
Right.
They need to understand things like cash flow,
Okay.
ROI, and debt financing.
That sounds like a lot to juggle. I mean, even for someone who's good with their personal finances. Managing the finances of a large-scale development project must be incredibly complex.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Developers often work with financial advisors and accountants
Right.
to navigate those complexities. But they still need to have a solid understanding of the fundamentals. They need to be able to analyze financial projections, assess risks, and make strategic decisions about where to allocate their resources.
And it's not just about securing the initial funding, right?
Right.
They need to be able to manage those funds wisely and keep the project on track financially as it progresses.
Absolutely. Cost overruns and delays can quickly derail a project.
Right.
So effective budgeting and cost control are crucial. Developers need to be able to anticipate potential expenses, negotiate favorable contracts, and closely monitor cash flow to ensure they have the resources to complete the project.
It's starting to sound like property developers need to be superhuman,
Yeah.
with expertise in everything from finance and law to design and construction.
It's certainly a demanding field.
Yeah.
But the rewards can be substantial, both financially and in terms of the impact developers can have on their communities.
Speaking of impact, let's not forget the social and environmental implications of property development.
Right.
After all, developers are shaping the spaces where we live, work, and play, so their decisions have a ripple effect that extends far beyond the buildings themselves.
That's a crucial point. And it's something that we'll explore in more depth in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll examine the responsibilities that come with shaping the built environment and discuss how developers can create projects that benefit both their bottom line and the well-being of their communities.
Welcome back. So far, this deep dive into property development has been full of surprises. I mean, who knew there were so many different types of developers out there,
Right.
each with their own unique approach and motivations?
It's a fascinating field, and honestly, we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But now it's time to shift our focus to the bigger picture. The impact that property development has on our communities and the world around us.
Yeah, you're right. We've talked about the skills, the different players, the financial side of things, but ultimately property development is about creating the spaces where we live, work, and play.
It is.
So it makes sense to consider the ripple effect of those decisions.
Think about it this way. Every building, every park, every neighborhood, it all started as an idea in someone's head. And those ideas, they're shaped by a whole range of factors,
Right.
from market trends and zoning regulations to the developer's own vision and values.
Okay, so we've got this mix of practical considerations and personal motivations all swirling around. But how does that translate into real-world impacts?
Well, one of the most obvious impacts is the provision of housing.
Okay.
As populations grow and cities expand, developers play a crucial role in creating the homes and apartments that people need, and the choices they make, the types of housing they build, the locations they choose,
Right.
the price points they target.
Yeah.
All of that has a profound effect on the affordability and accessibility of housing in a given area.
So it's not just about building more units, it's about building the right kind of units in the right places to meet the diverse needs of a community.
Exactly.
That makes me think of those public bodies we discussed earlier, the ones focused on developing affordable housing or revitalizing struggling neighborhoods.
Yeah, exactly. They often have a different set of priorities than a developer who's primarily focused on maximizing profit. They might be more willing to invest in projects that offer community benefits, like green spaces,
Okay.
public transportation access,
Right.
or mixed-income housing options.
And that brings us to another key impact, the shaping of communities. Developers aren't just building structures.
Right.
They're building environments that can foster a sense of place, belonging, and connection.
Think about those vibrant mixed-use developments that are popping up in cities around the world. They often combine residential, commercial, and recreational spaces in a way that encourages social interaction and a sense of community. They might include things like public plazas, farmers markets, or walking trails, all designed to bring people together and enhance their quality of life.
That's a far cry from those isolated car-dependent suburbs that were popular in the past. It sounds like developers are starting to think more holistically about how their projects fit into the larger urban fabric.
Absolutely. And this shift towards more sustainable and community-oriented development is being driven by a number of factors, including a growing awareness of climate change, rising transportation costs, and a desire for more walkable, livable neighborhoods.
This article also highlights the role of developers in improving the overall quality of what gets built.
That's an important point, because developers often work on a larger scale.
Yeah.
They have the resources to invest in higher quality materials, innovative design, and sustainable building practices that an individual homeowner might not be able to afford.
So they can actually raise the bar for the entire market,
Yes.
pushing the industry towards more sustainable and efficient construction methods. That's pretty powerful.
It is. And it also raises some interesting ethical questions.
Yeah.
What's the responsibility of a developer to go beyond just what's legally required
Right.
and build with a long-term, community-minded vision?
That's a big one. And I imagine there's no easy answer. Some developers might be purely profit-driven, while others are genuinely passionate about creating positive change through their work.
It's a spectrum for sure, but ultimately I think it comes down to recognizing that property development is about more than just making money. It's about shaping the world we live in. And that's a responsibility that shouldn't be taken lightly.
So whether you're an aspiring developer, a seasoned investor, or just someone who cares about your community, this deep dive has hopefully given you a new perspective on the world of property development.
It's a complex field full of challenges and opportunities, but it's also a field that has the potential to create lasting positive change.
And as we wrap up this episode, we want to leave you with this thought. The built environment around you, the homes, shops, offices, all of it was shaped by developers. What kind of impact do you want to see from the developers in your community? What kind of world do you want to help create? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.